At 3:15 a.m., the screen of her phone suddenly lit up in the darkness of our Chicago bedroom. The glow cut through the room like a small, poisonous rectangle of light. I wasn't supposed to be awake. I wasn't supposed to see the name appear on the screen. But I did. The name belonged to someone from our gym, Mark. Her thumb moved quickly and confidently, deleting the message before it could stay visible for long. But it was already too late. I had seen it. For a brief moment, I caught the faint outline of a heart emoji before the message disappeared. She rolled onto her side and settled comfortably into the pillow. Within seconds, her breathing became slow and steady. She believed I was still asleep beside her. She believed I was the same loyal, trusting husband she had married 12 years earlier. But in that quiet, devastating moment, something inside me broke. A decade of trust vanished instantly, replaced by a cold and painful certainty. She had no idea that the man lying next to her was about to become the one who would destroy everything she had built. The strange changes in her behavior had not happened all at once. They had crept into our life slowly, like a slow poison. She started coming home late, explaining that she had client dinners in the loop. Her phone, once left casually on the kitchen counter, suddenly became guarded like a government secret. Whenever I asked who she was texting, her response was sharp and defensive. "Can I have a minute of peace?" she would say irritably. "You've been so needy lately." The way she said it made me feel small, as if my simple questions were unfair accusations. People who betray others often behave as though they are untouchable. Looking back, the first warning sign had appeared about a month earlier at a charity gala. I remembered seeing Jessica laughing with Mark. His hand rested on the small of her back, slightly longer than it should have. At that moment, a quiet feeling of discomfort had stirred inside me. But I ignored it, taking a sip of bourbon and convincing myself I was being paranoid. Now that memory echoed in my mind like a blaring fire alarm. The moment everything finally collapsed happened on a Tuesday night. I was sitting in my car across the street from the Sofitel Hotel on Chestnut Street. Earlier that day, I had discovered a receipt showing a $300 charge at the hotel bar. Curiosity turned into suspicion, and suspicion pushed me to investigate. A black Mercedes pulled up in front of the hotel. Mark stepped out first and walked around to open the passenger door. Jessica stepped out. Under the warm amber glow of the streetlights, they leaned toward each other and kissed. Not a quick or uncertain kiss. A long, confident one. In that moment, the entire world seemed to fall silent. My breath caught in my throat as humiliation pressed against my chest like a heavy weight. I drove home in a daze. The city lights blurred through tears that I barely noticed falling. That night, I didn't sleep. Instead, I sat in my home office while the skyline shimmered through the window. I let the grief wash over me until there was nothing left. When the emotions were gone, only one thing remained. Cold determination. The loyal husband was gone. A strategist had taken his place. My plan began quietly. First, I hired a private investigator, a rough, experienced former police officer who worked out of a dusty office in River North. His services were expensive, but the results were worth every dollar. Within weeks, he delivered a detailed report filled with photographs, dates, and times. Every secret lunch at Gibson's. Every weekend trip disguised as a relaxing spa retreat. At the same time, I opened a new bank account and quietly transferred marital assets into a trust she could not reach. Then I scheduled a meeting with one of the most ruthless divorce attorneys in Chicago, Ms. Albright. Her glass office overlooked Millennium Park. When I laid the evidence in front of her, her eyes sharpened with interest. "Mr. Davies," she said with a thin smile, "we're going to dismantle her." The final step required patience. Jessica loved grand celebrations and attention. So, when our 11th wedding anniversary approached, she organized a lavish party at our home in Lincoln Park. Friends filled the house. Her relatives arrived. Co-workers mingled through the rooms. Jessica moved gracefully through the crowd wearing a shimmering silver dress, diamonds sparkling around her neck, gifts I had given her over the years. She looked radiant, completely unaware that everything she valued was about to collapse. Mark was there as well. From across the room, he lifted his champagne glass and gave me a smug, confident look. He believed he had already won. At exactly 8 o'clock that evening, I gently tapped my glass. The room slowly grew quiet. Jessica looked at me with a bright smile, her eyes shining with what everyone believed was love. I raised my glass. To my wife, Jessica, I said calmly. For 11 years you have been the center of my world. To celebrate this special occasion, I prepared a surprise for you. Her smile grew even wider. I reached into my jacket pocket. Instead of a jewelry box, I pulled out a thick legal envelope. I handed it to her. Her smile slowly faded as confusion appeared on her face. She opened the envelope carefully. Inside were not vacation tickets or romantic plans. It was a divorce settlement. Attached to the front page was a crystal-clear photograph. Jessica and Mark kissing in the Sofitel parking lot. A shocked gasp spread through the room. All the color drained from her face until she looked pale as a ghost. The confident expression she always carried shattered instantly, replaced by raw panic. Then I turned toward Mark. And Mark, I said quietly, my voice cold and steady, copies of this entire file have already been sent to your wife and to the board of directors at your company. The smug expression disappeared from his face, replaced by pure fear. The consequences arrived immediately. Jessica's friends stared at her in shock. Her family looked horrified. Her boss, who had been standing nearby, looked at her with open disgust. Within minutes, she had lost both her reputation and her professional standing. The party collapsed into nervous whispers and hurried departures. Jessica remained standing in the center of the room, gripping the papers as her hands trembled. In one perfectly executed moment, the life she had carefully built, the status she loved so much, had turned to ashes. I walked away without looking back. Now I live alone in a quiet apartment overlooking the lake. The water stretches endlessly beneath a gray sky. Tonight the city feels unusually silent. Sometimes I wonder if she still remembers that night, the moment when her perfect world finally cracked apart. But I have learned something unexpected. Revenge does not bring warmth or satisfaction. It creates emptiness, a hollow space that consumes everything, leaving you standing alone in the cold.